podcast. Sorry if you're one. We had some kind of shenanigans going on with or technical difficulties, but glad to be joining you tonight, and we'll be discussing Zero AD, the new trailer that came out recently, and just kind of other news of Bible adaptations. If you are not familiar with the Bible Artist, I've got a blog where I do reviews of popular Bible adaptations like The Chosen. I also did the recent Testament series, House of David, and other movies like this. And then I've got the YouTube channel where I do kind of 1 minute short kind of commentaries on The Chosen, House of David, little kind of nuggets of information from the biblical context. And I've also got interviews that I do. I've done interviews with various cast members of The Chosen, House of David. Got to interview Dallas Jenkins earlier this year. And then recently I got to do kind of some interviews with some scholars who are interested either in Bible adaptation specifically or kind of the intersection of The Chosen and theology and some of the various different topics that are connected to The Chosen. And so those have been really fun interviews to do. Yeah, and so if you're kind of interested in digging a little bit deeper into these things beyond just kind of the surface level reaction and kind of thing, looking for stuff in the show just at a viewer level, but actually kind of thinking about some of the ideas that are involved in The Chosen or other Bible adaptations, I think you'll really enjoy those interviews.
I know one thing I wanted to mention in our previous attempt at doing this, but I think at least two of the people you interviewed mentioned the Chosen episode 3 of the first season as the episode that kind of unlocked the show for them, and that was my case as well. I just found it fascinating that so many people that maybe it's people that are engaging it on a certain level, or not a certain level, but in a certain angle. That's somehow the one episode that kind of just keeps on speaking to them.
Yeah, it's really interesting. I feel like everyone that I've had that isn't from The Chosen itself, but that is like kind of talking about The Chosen, they always mention episode 3 as kind of the thing where things really clicked for them. So, we've talked about it for ourselves. I think Kyle as well has mentioned it.
That's the episode where Jesus is with the children. It's for anyone that isn't aware of that.
Yeah. I think a few months ago when I had a pastor on, Pastor DeLay, he also talked about that episode. So it's crazy how big of an impact episode 3 of The Chosen has had. I feel like they should do some sort of like documentary just on that episode and the ways that it's shaped the show and kind of the ways that it's impacted people. Because it's really interesting, and it's also like a kind of a atypical episode of a TV show. There's not a whole lot of conflict in it. It's just like Jesus talking with kids, having these funny little interactions. But it's so heartwarming, and it just kind of, I think, speaks to a lot of people. So that's the only episode of The Chosen that I've shared with my daughter, she's just 5 right now. So it was fun to see her reaction to it as well. But yeah, let's you can check out those interviews if you are interested in hearing kind of people's thoughts on that episode and The Chosen in general. But we'll be talking about Zero AD, like I said before. A new Bible film that's coming out in December, right around Christmas time, and it'll be following kind of the story of Mary and Joseph and baby Jesus on the run from Herod's men. Herod famously sends his men to kill all the children of Bethlehem when the wise men show up and tell him that the King of the Jews has been born. They've seen the star in the east. And so we'll be getting the wise men story, as you can see from this image, and we'll be getting lots of Herod and lots of Mary. And I'm really intrigued by some of the images that we get in that. It's just one among many different Bible adaptation projects that are on the horizon. I won't go into all these different things. We've talked about them before in the past. the House of David is probably kind of the biggest one on here, which was kind of a surprise that it is coming so soon, sometime this fall. I'm guessing probably like November. I don't think they've announced the specific date yet. So yeah, that's it's exciting to see all the stuff that is happening in Bible adaptation land, and we'll definitely have plenty of stuff to be talking about. And there's probably things that I'm missing here. So if you have something that you're aware of, or if you are working on a Bible adaptation, if you are an actor or a director or a writer, would love to talk about it with you and get your insight into this process of adaptation. So reach out to me. Cool. Well, let's talk about the trailer. So I've got a bunch of stills here. We don't need to go into every single one in depth, but just to kind of talk big picture, I thought the images and just kind of the cinematography and stuff from the trailer is pretty beautiful, and they're definitely like going for a very like distinct look and feel, which I think is cool. It doesn't just feel like kind of Hallmark card story of Jesus or story of the Nativity or whatever. They're doing kind of their own unique thing with it. So I think that's encouraging or hopeful.
All the images in this trailer are beautiful. It's like everything is composed beautifully, and it's like the cinematography's on point, and that kind of follows with that follows with the director's previous films. He's makes beautiful images, if nothing else.
Yep. So one of the first kind of images that we get is Mary, and she's walking toward a tree, which I think we're probably supposed to be thinking of kind of like, Garden of Eden, that kind of thing, because a lot of times the Bible kind of hints at Mary being kind of almost like a reverse Eve. Eve famously disobeyed God, and as a result, man fell into sin. Whereas a lot of theologians have thought about how Mary kind of through her submission to God, God's plan of salvation was able to come through her. So I feel like that's we're maybe kind of supposed to think of that with her approaching this tree. This could be potentially like in Egypt too, or like, I don't know, it kind of feels like a little bit of a deserty land. So it's kind of a cool, far off image of her that sets the stage for the rest of the trailer.
There's a lot of images that feel like they could possibly be dream-like images. Prophetic, or this kind of visions kind of ideas. So
we'll definitely be getting to more of those. We also get, I'm guessing this is Mary in the temple, could be potentially Elizabeth if they bring her into things, or some other, could be is it Susanna, who's the woman, like when they bring Jesus to the temple for his circumcision, or the dedication or whatever. But there's some sort of woman there in the temple. Huge fire going on here. I don't know. That's a pretty impressive blaze that's happening. A lot of films like to kind of talk or like kind of hint at the connection between Mary as the bearer of Jesus and the temple as the place where God's presence dwelled. So Jesus dwelt in Mary's womb, so she's kind of like a little temple. So I wouldn't be surprised if they hint at that. The Netflix Mary movie did a lot of Mary in the temple, which actually that kind of that is a topic that I'd be interested in kind of talking about. Did you watch the Mary Netflix movie?
I didn't watch it.
It wasn't great as a movie. Like I'm not a big fan of like biopics. So maybe if you're into that kind of thing, because biopics kind of, I guess they don't operate the same way that like a typical Hollywood movie operates with like a driven storyline. You can kind of like jump through kind of scene to scene, and it had a little bit of that. But probably the biggest one of the biggest problems was that Mary just felt like super passive. She was just kind of a passenger in her own movie, kind of getting pushed from place to place. I had issues with the way that it concluded, but that one had some really interesting visuals as well. So that is kind of a similarity. And then, yeah, that it was also very kind of interested in connecting Mary to the temple. I think it was drawing on kind of some Catholic kind of legendary material. So it'll be interesting to see how much this one does. One of the problems I think with the Mary one is that they were doing the biopic thing. So they were trying to do like Mary's entire life. They jumped over most of her childhood and stuff, but they were doing a pretty large section of Mary's life. Whereas this one, I get the sense that it's going to be more focused. We're probably not going to get the whole nativity story. It seems like we're probably going to pick up maybe right around kind of Jesus' birth, and then kind of mostly be moving on from that to Herod and his men like trying to go after them. So we're probably not going to get like teenage Mary in the temple, that kind of story that they did in the Netflix Mary. But yeah, it'll just be interesting to see kind of what they do with that imagery.
Yeah,
and stuff.
this movie almost, I mean, we're gonna get more into it, but this more feels like it's gonna let her be the heroic character in the story. Kind of like Terminator, where Sarah Connor's saving her
actually,
son.
Terminator is like really. I was gonna like bring up like kind of what kind of movie do you think this is, and I feel like Terminator might be a real good kind of comparison point, because you've got the female and the male who's kind of her protector on the run from this relentless foe who's trying to destroy them, and it even goes, the Terminator basically is like a kind of a Jesus story. John Connor, JC, is
Right.
literally kind of pointing at Jesus Christ, because the woman in Terminator, if you haven't seen it, she eventually gives birth to the guy who will grow up to be the leader of Earth's resistance against the robots or whatever. Because I'm giving way too much on Terminator. If you haven't seen it, you probably aren't gonna go see it at this point. But the robots send someone back in time to try to kill her, and she's on the run from it. So, but yeah, it does have kind of the feel of like a little bit of like action, a little bit of like suspense. So
I don't see her being as passive as you're describing the Mary movie.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, which like is good, because a lot of Mary kinds of films, like nativity films, tend to make her super passive, which I get where they're going, like, because she famously is like, let it be unto me according to your word. So she's like receptive or passive in response to God, but that doesn't mean that she has to be passive in respect to like the things that are happening around her. So yeah, it'll be cool to see her acting. Mary's also kind of famous for weeping over things. Like the Pieta is one of the most famous depictions of her. It's that's Mary kind of holding Jesus after the cross and weeping over him. But I think we'll get a lot of kind of the tears of Mary, which is a motif that I think a lot of people find moving and powerful. And then this guy looks like he's going to be one of our. What are you guys talking about? Looks like you already got that covered. Yeah, so we're talking about 0 AD, which is a Bible film, which is kind of following Mary and Joseph and baby Jesus as they're being pursued by King Herod's men. And so I think this is going to, even though King Herod is kind of the big boss, I guess, that's going after them, this guy looks like he's going to be kind of the more
do you know who that is?
Minion. Yeah. What's that?
Do you know who that is?
Actually, no, I don't.
That's Herod Antipater. How are you saying? That's supposed to be Herod's son.
Okay, so it's Herod's son.
So
okay,
yeah, so that's you can see a lot of that. Like he's he's assigning his son to do this task. So that's going to be an interesting kind of.
Which is interesting because like Herod's relationship with his sons is famously bad. Like I think he killed one or maybe more than one of his sons, and he was just like a very kind of paranoid person. And it looks like they're going to make this guy into someone who's kind of feeling torn about what he's doing. Here he kind of looks like he's kind of like questioning what's going on. We also get this shot later on where he's like looking in a mirror, and he apparently kind of meets Balthazar at some point. And I feel like we get a lot of hints that even though he's like in charge of all these forces that are going after Mary, he may have kind of second thoughts about it. Although, Herod Antipas, he definitely doesn't become like a Christian or anything. So even if he kind of feels torn, they can't have him go too far in that direction. But maybe his torn feelings will prevent him from ultimately doing the deed. Which, getting back to the Netflix Mary movie, I feel like one of I kind of mentioned earlier that I didn't like the climax of it or the ending, because basically like the way it was resolved, spoiler warning if you haven't seen it, but it's not really that worth seeing. I mean, the visuals on there are kind of cool, but the story is not great. Everything's resolved just by like Joseph killing the guy that's been going after them, which I feel like it doesn't make sense as like a nativity story. Like you should have kind of some sort of even if you're not going to redeem everybody, just have more than just like a someone killing another person as the way of things being saved. So I feel like with this one, kind of the moral tension that he seems like he's struggling with will probably play into how things are resolved. And then we also get lots of Herod. I initially wasn't a big fan of some of the images that we got of Herod, especially where he looks very kind of like Henry VIII, with these robes and stuff. It may be that those robes are accurate, but it just puts my mind more into like medieval English king, and not so much into ancient, Judea, Idumean, or whatever. Now, this image down here, which comes up later in the trailer, this one I like a little bit more. And he looks like, I wasn't expecting him to look kind of, I don't know. He looks like something happened to his face. I don't know exactly what, but and then he's got these weird things on his fingers. I don't know what those are all about, but and there's another one I think that shows up where he looks a little bit more like kind of a Middle Eastern type garb. So it may just be that he's in these robes for part of it, but he has some stuff that doesn't feel quite so medieval European. The
vibe I'm kind of getting is that the actor Jim Caviezel said, "I'll be in this, but you got to let me do some weird stuff." I want to play him a little bit out of the box a little bit.
Yeah, which people love doing kind of weird stuff with Herod. I keep going back to the Mary movie, but I mean, I feel like that's kind of inevitable when you've got two of these movies that are so close to one another in their release. Probably the Anthony Hopkins was like one of the few like strong performances, which Anthony Hopkins can do like a eccentric king. Like he could totally phone it in and it'd still be better than, most of the people that are doing like their best acting. But it'll be interesting to see what they do. I get some kind of like, there's one image where he's like surrounded by a bunch of candles. So that makes me think maybe he's kind of doing some pagan magic kinds of stuff. And I don't know, sometimes he looks a little drunk or I don't know. I think he'll probably be like pretty eccentric and like you said, a little weird or off the beaten path. So that'll be interesting to see. quick image of her in the cave. I assume that's Joseph praying there in the background. Yeah, we don't need to go too much into that unless you have anything. We get some images of, the Romans, or the people under Herod's son, kind of lined up on this cliffside overlooking Bethlehem, and then coming down with their horses. Very terrifying. And then this image I found kind of interesting. So they're like, he kind of like goes across the door a couple of times, like he's like scraping on the door, and there may be like kind of a practical function of what he's doing. Like maybe they are kind of like confirming like who has, who they've gone through and checked their house or whatever. But as he's like scraping the door and he kind of makes a mark on it, it almost gives me like a reverse or like subversion of Passover sort of feel, which is appropriate because unlike Passover, the sons are going to die, sadly, whereas Passover, famously, God saves all the firstborn from the angel of death. So that's kind of interesting. I'm interested to see kind of any parallels that they create there. Yeah, I mean, I definitely think that they could really turn this into a pretty terrifying scene. And there's, lots of kind of room for, emotion and, action and stuff during kind of that whole sequence.
Yeah, I think this movie's going to take a lot more creative liberties on interesting connections to other Bible stories that aren't necessarily right there in that particular part of the Bible.
Yep. Which is good. Like, that's one of the values of Bible adaptation, is to try to kind of elevate and draw some of these connections, which may be kind of implicit in the biblical text, but they aren't like just out there for you to see, really, like in a very, very obvious way. And so a visual story can kind of add elements that help you make those connections. With The Chosen, like I feel like one of the best examples of that is the whip element that they kind of keep bringing in to tie things together. It's like, it's not in the biblical story, but it helps you draw some kind of biblical theological connections between what's happening in previous stories. So, and they give these soldiers like a real like special forces look, which I feel like is probably, someone can correct me, like maybe they really had armor that looked like this, but I feel like this is probably not like authentic first century armor, but they're just like trying to kind of play on our like associations of like kind of dark looking armor to try to make them look like these like commando sorts of soldiers.
It's kind of like German helmets almost.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, the spike I wouldn't doubt quite so much, but more just like the kind of the uniformity of like all the black and stuff. Whereas like I feel like most soldiers in previous eras, at this time, like I wouldn't expect, like Romans, like they had their gear and stuff, but like I don't think they probably had like separate like nighttime special forces armor. And generally, soldiers wouldn't attack during night probably anyway, unless it was like a ambush or something like that. So we already we saw the Satan character in the last trailer, but he shows up. We hear him a little bit. Again, real creepy. So definitely kind of some horror vibes with him. It'll be interesting. I feel like, sorry to continue to bring up the Mary film, but it felt like a little hammy the way that they used Satan in that film. So it'll be interesting to see what they do with this one, and whether like it feels kind of like too obtrusive, like how he kind of fits into the other elements that are going on.
This almost feels like it could be a prequel to Passion of the Christ. feels like it's in
Yeah,
that
that's a good
same
comparison.
vein.
Yeah, yeah. And so like it seems like he's gonna kind of be playing into probably like Mary's story arc. Like he's more of like probably her antagonist, whereas they've got the Herod's forces. They'll be kind of the more external antagonists that are that they're having to run from. Whereas he's probably kind of like trying to get her to doubt and to kind of question the way that she's being led on. We also get Satan versus Jesus. So can't see it too well in this picture, but there's a snake who's coming towards the baby. Yeah, so interesting image. Obviously, harkening back to Garden of Eden, the serpent, all of that. I like this picture. So it's Mary's kind of going down. It looks like into maybe like a well or something like that, and then she's being handed, presumably, baby Jesus to probably hide from the Romans or whatever. So I think that's a pretty interesting image. Like you said, yeah, I do think they're trying to kind of make Mary feel a little bit like Sarah Connor, or like a strong kind of active character protagonist to lead the film. She gives, yeah, like a little stronger vibe than I've seen in some other Mary films. And then we're back to Balthazar, who I had in kind of the thumbnail or whatever. So traditionally, I'm not going to get all their names. So I know Balthazar is the African wise man, and then there's yeah, I'm forgetting the other ones now. But they're traditionally from kind of different parts of kind of the area around like the east, or kind of the surrounding parts. And yeah, the Bible itself only describes them as wise men, but definitely looks like he's got a crown, so they're picking up on the tradition that they are not just three wise men but three kings, which it does kind of have a little bit of biblical precedent, because I think in one of Isaiah's prophecies he pictures kings from the earth kind of bringing their treasure to the Messiah or to Israel. And so that kind of story, I think, kind of informed how people imagined the three wise men as not just wise figures, but potentially kings who are kind of representing the nations coming to submit to the true King of Kings. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see how much kind of airtime we get with them. They just show up in a couple of bits, but yeah, they could be significant figures given their part in the story.
Melchior and Caspar or Caspar.
Oh yeah. Melchior and Caspar. Yeah. Yeah, it also looks like the Herod Antipas catches up with Balthazar, so they're going to have some sort of interaction. So I would guess that that probably plays a role in kind of Herod Antipas kind of feeling tugged and torn in his journey. Here's again, definitely the three wise men. They're probably looking at the star. He's probably pointing up at it as they're traveling. So I would guess this is probably like a pretty early image in the film, because the initial kind of wise men following the star has to be kind of towards the beginning of the film, because that is part of what puts Herod into motion. So I wouldn't be surprised if this is like opening sequence.
Yeah, I mean we see her pregnant, so we're going to get at least that much of the story. So
that's true. Yeah, this is one of those images you were mentioning, how like some stuff almost feels like a visionary. Yeah, this one's like really interesting. So we get this image where I think this is Mary. It's almost like she's like looking at a picture of herself, but then as she kind of goes up in the water, we realize that she's actually been underwater, and that's like a kind of a reflection of her almost. So there's, I mean, definitely we are thinking of baptism as we see this, even though, from like, I believe Alejandro Monteverde, I believe he's Catholic. So in which case he would think that Mary's without sin. You and Victor and I were both Protestants, so we wouldn't necessarily hold to that view. But I would think Catholics would not necessarily think that Mary needed to be baptized, although Jesus was baptized as well, and he's obviously without sin. But this could also just be kind of a ceremonial cleansing, which didn't necessarily always have to do with sin in ancient Judaism.
Yeah, that's just a beautiful image, though. I love that's my favorite image from the trailer.
I agree. Yeah, it's really, just like you said, beautiful visually to look at, and the way the camera kind of shifts and like we get kind of a Dutch angle here. I'm really
if it's not a baptism scene, it's like a great depiction of kind of what that feels like, or seems like. That could be a typical one that they use.
Yeah, because like if you're thinking of baptism, like going from like old life into new life, so you got like these kind of two pictures of her, and she's kind of raising out into that new self or whatever. So yeah, if they're not going for baptism, it definitely kind of has those overtones or whatever. Yeah. This one kind of goes along with what you're saying. Mary as kind of a heroine, Sarah Connor type figure, where everybody's kind of looking to her. She really looks like a leader. I don't know too much
looks kind of like a Renaissance painting almost.
Yeah, she's definitely wearing a lot of blue, which is maybe like historically not accurate, but I'm okay with them like doing things for the visuals. And I've never been someone who like is too insistent on like everything has to be like perfectly historically accurate. Like I think if you have like a look and something interesting that you're doing with the visuals and you kind of prioritize that over perfect historical plausibility, I'm like okay with that. That's how most of Christian art has been done throughout history, and I think it's
everything in this trailer feels biblical.
Yeah,
even if it doesn't feel historical.
Yes,
it's got the epic feel of
even if they're not doing things like perfectly like kind of historically accurate, there's meaning to it that they're trying to convey, which with like kind of the artistic tradition, Mary wearing all this blue, that kind of has meaning, I think kind of related to kind of purity and her as kind of a source of new life by giving birth to Jesus. And so there's meaning to things even if they weren't perfectly historically accurate or whatever. This here, we get like a quick little image of, at first I was thinking this was a tree, but I think it's a map of the Nile Delta. So they're heading down to Egypt, which is where Jesus and his family are for a few years until Herod dies, and they're safe to go back up. So I imagine this is kind of the map that they're using to find their way there. We got Joseph going into the temple. I believe this is Joseph, and almost looks like he could be like he reminded me of like Mark Hamill in the recent Star Wars trilogy, which I know is not loved, but I don't know. And then I love this image here of the two of them, and then toddler Jesus in between, which I don't know if I've never
also
seen
from a Star Wars movie, but
that's true. It's true. Very kind of New Hope-ish vibes. But I was gonna say, I don't know if I've seen a film where we got Jesus, not just as a baby, but like as a toddler who was walking around. So that'll be cool if we, well, apparently we get it. I don't know how much of the time that we get with Jesus as a toddler, but it's cool that we kind of get that image. And I know, like, for Catholics, the Holy Family is like a really kind of important thing as like a ideal for families. So it looks like they're kind of gonna do a little bit of that, like kind of the relationships between the three of them being kind of a model for families to look up to and be inspired by. So that's kind of cool. And yeah, that's it for. There were other images in the trailer, obviously, but those were some of the ones that I found interesting. Yeah, like we said, it's a really beautiful trailer, and yeah, I'm looking forward to it more and more as we get closer to it, and we see more from the trailer and stuff like that. Yeah.
I'm trying to remember. It's like I don't think any of the dialogue was taken from the Bible. It seemed like
Yeah, I
anything we
don't think
heard
so.
was new stuff.
Yeah, which makes sense. Like the only things that from this period that we would get that would be, I guess, like stuff that from the three wise men to Herod, like when they
Right.
come, and are like, we saw his star in the east and we've come to worship him. That kind of stuff might be from the Bible, but most of this story is kind of given in pretty like broad overview. So we don't get like a whole lot of like dialogue between characters and stuff like that, which, so this is why, Bible adaptation is not as simple as just take the biblical text and then, put it on screen mechanically and do nothing yourself. It requires, expansion, because obviously characters are talking to each other as they're doing these different things. And there's a lot of kind of connective tissue that you need to put in there to actually depict these things, not in kind of the general way that you're able to describe things in a sentence or two when you're just writing them down. So lots of kind of room for interpretation. And yeah, I mean, it looks like I haven't seen anything that feels like it'll be like super controversial from a biblical standpoint, but having controversy isn't always like a horrible thing for Bible films. Sometimes that drives interest in them. Although I think it probably wasn't. The Mary film, I feel like, is one of the few times where I've seen a controversy probably like kill a film as opposed to help it out. Because I don't think like a ton of people checked out the Netflix Mary, but that's better for this one, because if that had been popular, then I feel like this one would have been kind of dead on arrival, because people would have been like, oh, we just saw that like a year ago. Do you really want us to just do the same thing again? But because that one I feel like didn't get a ton of attention, that creates more room for this one, even though they're hitting a lot of the same beats, and they're both kind of interested in being really artistic and kind of visually distinct. But this one, I do think the story looks more focused, and because they've kind of chosen kind of that chase as the main focus of the story, I think that will lend itself to being just kind of a better Hollywood experience, where characters are able to make choices, and also because there's room there for Mary to do stuff, and it doesn't just have to be kind of limited by Mary says this in the Bible and then she says this in the Bible, but she can kind of shape her story a little bit. I think it'll probably be a lot more engaging as a film.
Yeah, all the dialogue we do get in this trailer is like it's presented as very formal and epic and important. It kind of feels like an old school Bible epic where everything was big and huge and important and larger than life.
This is definitely not like The Chosen, where people are cracking jokes and stuff like that. It's more so I kind of like to say that with like Bible adaptation, there's lots of different Bible adaptation types, but generally I feel like there's two directions that are more popular. One is the more like making things more relatable, like easier to put yourself in. So, The Chosen does that. Testament is kind of doing that in its own way. Promised Land, kind of in its own way, is doing that. Whereas then there's kind of the Bible adaptation that does more of like it's trying to make things look really transcendent, really kind of unearthly or very different and epic. So House of David is kind of more in that camp. And yeah, like you said, I feel like this one's more aiming for that, like making things really larger than life and trying to inspire a sense of like awe and wonder and kind of excitement, as opposed to like, oh, I could totally see myself in that story. Most people, they may connect with some of the characters in this, but they're not like primarily going to it to try to find someone who's just like them.
Yeah, this one feels more like it's a living painting is what they're going for. They're going for art. They're going for something beautiful and meaningful as opposed to accurate.
Yeah.
Now, so one interesting. Go ahead. I was saying one interesting side thing is one interesting side thing is this movie stars Sam Worthington. He's the guy playing Harold Antipas. This movie comes out on December 19th, same day as Avatar 3, also starring Sam Worthington. So if you're a Sam Worthington fan, that's either going to be your favorite day or you're going to have to like make a difficult choice on which one you want to watch.
They should try to do like a Barbenheimer kind of thing, like with Sam Worthington fans, like go see both of them back to back in theater or whatever.
That'd be kind of cool. I think I'm going to do that. That's going to be my December 19th.
Your goal? Nice.
Yeah, I'm going to do it.
Yeah, I mean, it's, winter time, cold out, like just spend some time in the theater. Yeah, this one, I think I'll probably try to see this in theater. This is looking like it'll be worth the time. So, yeah. Cool. Well, that's mostly it for tonight. If you have other Bible adaptations, like I said, love to discuss those. Or if you have other things that you'd like us to get into, definitely feel free to comment or reach out to me by email. And we'll be back. Maybe we're gonna have like as kind of regular schedule during the summer, but I do want to I keep wanting to do a table read of the script for David and the Outlaws, and I also kind of want to talk about circle back to House of David a little bit, and potentially just kind of talk about like the value of House of David for potentially doing Bible studies and stuff like that, because I feel like The Chosen has a big following of people who are studying it in Bible studies. I haven't seen kind of as much chatter with that with House of David, and I feel like it actually is kind of valuable. So maybe we can talk about that at some point, or other stuff with House of David. There's definitely going to be plenty of House of David to talk about this fall. So cool. Well, thanks everybody for joining us. This has been the Bible Artist. Also, make sure to check out Victor's novel. I might not have put it in the notes for this episode, but most of the previous episodes, I'll add it in the notes in a minute. But you can definitely find it vicdigital.substack.com, right?
Yep, that's it.
Reverse Narnia.
Read it for free.
And Victor's got like a whole host of songs that you can listen to as you're reading it. So it can be a multi-sensory experience as well. One of the positives of the age of AI that we're going into. So not that the novel itself is AI, just to be clear, it's the music that he's been.
Yeah, the AI is written 100% written by a human being.
Awesome. Well, thanks again for joining us, and Godspeed.